It's October 19th, 1972. On the northern shores of Lubang Island in the Philippines, the afternoon sun burns across empty rice fields. But peace doesn't last long. Farmers drop their tools and run, shouting warnings through the village. From the dense jungle, the crack of rifle fire shatters the quiet. Two men step out of the trees. Their uniforms are tattered, their faces lean and fierce. Rusted rifles in hand, they move with the precision of soldiers trained long ago. To the terrified locals, they look like ghosts from another time, because they are. Second Lieutenant Hiroo Onoda and Private Kenshichi Kozuka, soldiers of the once mighty Imperial Japanese Army, have returned. For nearly 30 years, they have lived in these jungles, fighting a war that ended decades ago. To them, World War II isn't over. The Emperor still needs them. Every voice that says otherwise is an enemy's trick. As the police are called and chaos spreads through the villages, Onoda and Kozuka retreat back into the shadows, vanishing as quickly as they appeared. For the people of Lubang, this has become an old, terrifying ritual, one that's haunted them for nearly 3 decades. But today, something is different. Today, their world and his will finally collide. Who is this man, this soldier who would not surrender? How could someone stay loyal to orders long after his nation laid down its arms? This is not a tale of madness or heroism. It's the story of a man trapped between honor and reality. A man who believed that duty meant never stopping, even when the world had moved on without him. This is the story of Hiroo Onoda, the soldier who refused to surrender. The year is 1945. Japan is burning. Cities once proud and bright now lie in ruins, turned to ash by endless bombings. The empire that once stretched across the Pacific is collapsing inch by inch. On a small island called Lubang, a young intelligence officer named Hiroo Onoda arrives by boat under the cover of night. He is just 22 years old, sharp-minded, and deeply loyal. He believes, as every soldier was taught, that the Emperor's will is sacred, unquestionable. The mission is simple, but absolute. Defend Lubang Island from American forces at any cost. Disrupt supply lines, destroy enemy equipment, and above all, never surrender. Before his commander, Major Taniguchi, departs, he gives Onoda one final order. No matter what happens, he says, looking directly into the young man's eyes, you are forbidden to take your own life. You will continue fighting until I return to relieve you. To most, those words would sound like the end of hope. To Onoda, they were a promise and a purpose. Soon after, the Americans invade. Explosions roll through the island, trees shatter, and Japanese defenses crumble. Within weeks, communication lines are gone. Commanders are dead or captured. For the rest of the army, the war is over. But not for Onoda. To him, silence is not surrender. It's proof that the enemy controls the airwaves. The war must still be raging somewhere. He gathers a handful of surviving soldiers and disappears into the thick jungle. There, surrounded by heat, rain, and the cries of distant wildlife, he vows to carry out his mission, exactly as ordered. For Hiroo Onoda, the Emperor's voice may have fallen silent, but his orders still echo through the trees. And so, while Japan surrenders, Onoda's war is only beginning. The war ends for the world in August 1945. But deep in the steaming jungles of Lubang Island, Hiroo Onoda and 3 fellow soldiers never get the message. When the bombing stops and the radios go silent, they take it as a sign to hide, not surrender. The Americans must have taken control, they think. This is when a true soldier's test begins. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months. The small group, Onoda, Private Kenshichi Kozuka, Corporal Shimada, and Private Akatsu, move through the jungle like shadows. They build bamboo shelters under thick leaves, collect rainwater, and hunt wild cattle at night. Every sound becomes suspect. Every rustle of wind could be an ambush. To them, silence isn't peace. It's the sound of an enemy waiting. They live by military routine, cleaning rifles, checking perimeter lines, bowing toward Tokyo at dawn. Each man clings to his belief that the emperor will one day return and the war will resume. One afternoon, a plane circles above, dropping hundreds of leaflets fluttering through the trees. Onoda grabs one and reads, "The war ended on August 15th. Japan has surrendered." For a moment, the men just stare. The jungle hums around them. Then Onoda shakes his head. "No," he says quietly. "This is a trick. The enemy wants us to give ourselves up." They burn the leaflets. The mission continues. Nights bring small talk, laughter about food, dreams of home, teasing each other about girls they might never see again. They argue about rationing, tell jokes to drown the fear. But beneath every laugh lies the same truth. None of them really know if they'll ever see Japan again. To the outside world, they've already been forgotten. But in their minds, they're still soldiers, fighting a war that never ended. The months blur into years. Seasons change. But for Hiroo Onoda and his men, time has stopped somewhere in 1945. The jungle becomes their world, their battlefield, their prison, and their only home. The men grow thinner. Their uniforms rot. Still, they march in formation each morning, rifles over their shoulders, eyes fixed ahead. Orders never change. Survive, observe, and await the emperor's command. But faith begins to bend under the weight of years. Private Akatsu, quiet and nervous, can't take the hunger or the fear anymore. One night, while the others sleep, he slips away into the darkness. Days later, gunshots echo in the distance, and Akatsu never returns. To Onoda, desertion is worse than death. He records the loss as one soldier missing in action. Then comes Corporal Shimada's end, a brief, senseless skirmish near a stream. A local search party opens fire. Shimada is struck down. Onoda kneels beside his fallen comrade, straightens his collar, and buries him with full military respect, as if Tokyo might one day read his report. Now only two remain, Onoda and Kazuka. They build new shelters deeper in the jungle, living off rice stolen from farms and meat from wild cattle. By night, they hear radios playing strange music, voices speaking a Japanese too modern to trust. It must be propaganda, Onoda insists. Every December, they perform the same ritual. Standing side by side, they bow toward the northeast, toward Japan. They speak the emperor's name and reaffirm their duty. But to the villagers below, these men are no longer soldiers. They are ghosts who steal in the night, taking food, burning crops, and leaving fear behind. Livestock vanish. Gunfire echoes across the valley, and the people whisper a name carried on the wind, the name of the man who will not surrender. By the 1950s, Hiroo Onoda has become a story told in whispers. To the villagers of Lubang, he's no longer a man, he's a ghost. They call him the mountain spirit, the jungle soldier, the man who never dies. Each night, gunshots echo from the hills. Crops are found burned, cattle gone, footprints vanishing into the mist. Parents warn their children not to wander too close to the forest after dark. Somewhere out there, they say, the ghost still fights his war. And they're right. Onoda moves like an animal now. Silent, precise, methodical. He knows every path, every river, every pattern of the wind. He studies the seasons like a scientist, marks the stars for navigation, and reads the jungle's rhythm by instinct. When he's wounded, he digs out bullets with the tip of his knife, pressing leaves to stop the bleeding. When storms flood his shelter, he rebuilds it, one stalk of bamboo at a time. He and Kazuka still operate as soldiers, raiding villages for food, keeping records, writing reports no one will ever read. Their rifles, cleaned daily, still gleam in the sunlight. One day, Onoda steals a small transistor radio from a hut. Late at night, as rain falls on the roof, he twists the dial and hears music. Strange, beautiful music, clearer than anything he's ever known. He freezes. The announcer's voice speaks in Japanese, smooth, unfamiliar, confident. The language sounds the same, but the world it describes is foreign. He listens for hours, then he turns it off and whispers, propaganda. In his mind, this is just another trick, another lie to break his will. Years pass. He sees jet aircraft carving lines across the blue sky, faster than any Zero fighter he's known. The sight shakes him, but his logic holds firm. They must be new American planes, he mutters. The war continues. And so, the jungle remains his fortress, the enemy, his constant shadow, and loneliness, his last and only companion. By 1974, Hiroo Onoda has spent nearly 30 years in the jungle. For the rest of the world, his name has faded into myth, a soldier lost to time. But for one young man in Japan, that myth becomes a challenge. Norio Suzuki, 24 years old, is restless. He's not a soldier or a scholar. He's a wanderer, a dreamer. He tells his friends he's setting out to find three things: a panda, a yeti, and Hiroo Onoda. They laugh, but Suzuki smiles. The world is too big to sit still, he says, and boards a flight to the Philippines. Days later, on Lubang Island, the villagers watch a lone traveler walking toward the mountains with nothing but a pack, a camera, and a voice full of optimism. For Onoda, it starts like every other intrusion. He spots movement in the trees, a figure climbing through the brush, calling out in Japanese, "Lieutenant Onoda, the war is over. Japan is at peace." Onoda raises his rifle, finger tight on the trigger. The voice sounds young, too open, too careless. He steps from the shadows, sights aligned on the stranger's chest. Suzuki freezes, hands raised, heart pounding. "I'm Japanese," he says. "I came here to find you." A long silence. The jungle hums. A drop of sweat falls down the rifle barrel. Then Onoda notices something: the shoes, rubber sandals, civilian socks. No soldier would dress like that. The rifle lowers. The tension breaks like a snapped string. In the days that follow, they talk cautiously, by campfires, beside rivers. Suzuki doesn't argue or mock him. He listens. And for the first time in decades, Onoda speaks freely about duty, about loneliness, about the emperor he still serves. The two men form a fragile trust, the wanderer searching for the past and the soldier who never left it. When Suzuki finally prepares to leave, Onoda gives him one condition. "I will surrender," he says quietly, "only when my commanding officer orders it." For the first time in 30 years, there's a flicker of hope in his voice. Norio Suzuki keeps his promise. He returns to Japan and tells the story that sounds too impossible to believe. A soldier still fighting the war, still obeying his orders, still waiting for his commander. News spreads quickly. The government confirms the identity. Reporters dig through archives, searching for the name of the man who once gave the fateful command. Major Yoshimi Taniguchi, now an old man living a quiet civilian life, receives the message. For years, he thought Onoda had died in the jungle. Now, the ghost of his own past calls him back. Taniguchi agrees to travel to Lubang Island. He packs the same uniform he once wore, pressed, decorated, and heavy with memories. On March 9th, 1974, The two men finally meet. The jungle that once hid Onoda now stands silent, as if listening. When Taniguchi steps into the clearing, Onoda appears from the trees, rifle in hand, boots polished, uniform patched and worn, but still neat. For a long moment, neither speaks. Then Taniguchi reaches into his coat and unfolds a paper. His voice trembles slightly as he reads. As of this date, the Imperial Army of Japan orders 2nd Lieutenant Hiroo Onoda to cease all combat activity. The war has ended. You are to surrender immediately. Onoda listens without expression. Then slowly, he nods. He removes the bullets from his rifle, wipes the metal clean, and presents it with both hands, the proper military gesture of surrender. For 30 years, he says quietly, I have obeyed my orders. My war ends today. Around him, villagers and soldiers watch. Some cry, others turn away, still haunted by what those 3 decades cost them. Soon after, Onoda is taken to Manila. President Ferdinand Marcos, recognizing the strange purity of his loyalty, grants him a full pardon for the lives lost and damage caused. In that moment, the war, his war, truly ends. The soldier who refused to surrender finally stands down, and the jungle, after 30 years, falls silent once more. When Hiroo Onoda returns to Japan in 1974, the world greets him like a man stepping out of another century. He left behind a nation of firebombed cities and ration cards. He comes home to neon lights, bullet trains, and color televisions glowing in every window. Crowds line the streets to see him, reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing, banners waving. To the older generation, he is a symbol of the old spirit, discipline, courage, loyalty to the emperor. They bow deeply as he passes, some with tears in their eyes. But the younger generation looks at him differently, with confusion, even pity. They've grown up in peace. To them, Onoda isn't a hero. He's a relic of a past they no longer understand. In interviews, Onoda struggles to find his place. He answers questions with precision, as if giving a field report. But inside, something begins to break. The discipline that kept him alive for 30 years now leaves him adrift in a world with no orders to follow. In quieter moments, he wonders aloud, was I loyal, or was I blind? He learns how the world moved on without him. Japan rebuilt, the emperor renounced his divinity, and the very ideals he fought to defend have faded into history. The irony is impossible to ignore. The war that ended in a matter of months continued to live inside one man's heart for 3 decades. He kept fighting out of faith, even when that faith became a prison. Years later, seeking peace, Onoda moves to Brazil, joining his brother and starting a new life as a cattle rancher. There, surrounded by open fields instead of jungle, he finally lives quietly. No gunfire, no enemies, no orders. He passes away in 2014 at the age of 91. The jungle took his youth, but not his soul. He survived the impossible, yet never escaped the echo of duty. He survived the jungle, but never escaped his orders. Hiroo Onoda, the last man of a war that refused to die.